James, the very first intro, I'm looking at that camera right there. I don't know if that makes any use to you, but I'm just going to be looking over. There's a camera sort of
camera over there.
near our photographer.
Behind the light.
Yeah, somewhere there. So I'm just going to be, so that'll get us both, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
We're looking very moody, aren't we? In this,
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
lift
yeah.
inside and everything. It's very jazz club.
Yeah, that's right. We've gone with the jazz club look.
Now I can still read that, but only just so.
Yeah, right.
When I'm looking at this.
Let me know when you want me to call. 5, 4, 3, 2.
Hi, I'm James Morrison, and I want to tell you about International Jazz Day, an annual UNESCO event that takes place all over the world, involving people of all ages and abilities through community events, workshops and concerts.
Jazz at the Blues House.
Each year, one country is chosen to host the global concert. And the exciting thing is for 2019, that's Australia. And that concert will be beamed live to every corner of the world from the Sydney Opera House. No matter where you are in Australia, we want you to take part in International Jazz Day. And one of the ways you can do that is to enter our composition competition. This is for young people of school age, You don't have to be a jazz composer, you don't have to have written any music at all before. All you have to do is write a simple melody. That will then be judged by none other than Mr. Herbie Hancock. And your melody, if you're the winner, will be arranged for big band and become the theme for International Jazz Day 2019 and played at the Global Concert. The winner will also be brought to Sydney to see all that happen live and meet Herbie Hancock. Now that's exciting. There are so many ways to be involved, with learning modules for teachers, online interactive workshops with some of the biggest names in jazz, and so much more. To find out about all this, go to the link on your screen. Get involved, and I look forward to celebrating International Jazz Day with you all.
Welcome everybody to the International Jazz Day virtual excursion. We're coming live across New South Wales public schools and state schools and across other schools in all of our other states. We have a bunch of schools live right this minute. We have schools from New South Wales metropolitan areas such as Ryde Public School and Kirrawee High School, Cronulla High School. And I can see live on our television screen we've got a few of our rural and regional schools. We've got Carrool Public School, wave, hello everyone. We've got Narrabri High School, we've got Denison College from near Bathurst, and we've got Bulahdelah Central School. So we've got lots of schools. We've even got schools in Adelaide and Perth tuning in today. And of course this is going to YouTube live as well, it's not just a one-off incident, so we'll be able to record this and you'll be able to have this as a resource for your reference later on. Speaking of resources, we have resources online that you will get a link for at the end of today's presentation. These are resources that are written for the New South Wales curriculum, however, are obviously immediately adaptable to any state curriculum. They're written for years 5 to 10, but you can obviously adapt those. Now, the focus of today's workshop presentation is about the International Jazz Day Composition Competition. That is due on December the 7th, and it's a composition that will be submitted to Herbie Hancock, who will decide the best one across Australia, and then that will be arranged for a big band and then will be available to schools in Australia in the start of next year, term 1. So we're very excited about that. So today's focus is on how to develop a jazz composition. We've already got some that have been submitted and they're absolutely fabulous. And of course, to do our workshop today, we are very lucky to have Australia's preeminent jazz musician on behalf of International Jazz Day Australia. Please welcome James Morrison.
Hi everyone. We are very excited about the compositions we've been receiving so far, and it's fantastic. I'm hearing about all the activity out there, people composing melodies and creating some music, which is what this is all about. And of course, as has been said, it will be arranged for big band, but finally, in International Jazz Day next year in April, then the person who's written the winning composition will come to International Jazz Day and meet Herbie Hancock and hear their composition played.
Wow.
And the big band will be there to play too. It's going to be fantastic. Well, speaking of excited about compositions,
we have some questions and compositions that have already been submitted. And to kick us off with all of our presentation today, we're going to go to a question that was submitted by Oliver at Bulahdelah Central School. And he's probably listening right now. Oliver asks us, Oliver's from year 7, he asks James, once I have created a melodic phrase, what techniques could I use to develop it to form the composition?
well, firstly, that question is fantastic because it shows that Oliver really has an understanding of one of the greatest ways to make a composition, which is to create a melodic phrase, perhaps a short phrase, and then use it to develop into a composition rather than just writing new phrases all the time. So that means take a short melody, a short phrase, and use it again. So what do you do to it, as Oliver has asked, to develop it into a composition? One of the things you can do is take your phrase and then repeat it, but just adjust perhaps only one note, change one note. In fact, one of the pieces we've had sent is a really good example of that. If I just go to this composition, have a look, entitled My Composition by Ella. She does this very well with a very short idea. She's got, if you have a look, just those first two notes is almost the idea. It jumps, and then she does it again, and jumps even higher, back to the first one, then even higher, and then a different one. And this creates a phrase which she then uses again. And so what this does is it creates a sort of an excitement in the composition because it keeps jumping higher. It does it again so that we get to really hear that. And then the third time she does it, if you look, goes through to here, she hangs on to that last note. And then before we go into some other things, and we'll talk about Ella's composition more later, but you can see the idea here, a very short idea, that very first idea of taking two notes and developing that into a phrase and then using the phrase a number of times. So just changing a note. Let's have a look at another one that does a very similar thing, but in another way altogether. Here's Lachlan's composition, Let's Be Smart for Once. He takes a whole 4-bar phrase and he repeats that again, and the next time, again, he just changes the ending. Have a look. There's the ending there, those 3 notes, and what he does is, I'll just take that off, these 3 notes here, and he just changes that to here. Otherwise, the whole phrase, all this and all that, is the same both times, but he finishes it differently. That's a very common and a great way, that's why it's used so often, way to develop a song. So with those 2 examples, you can see just 2 notes and keep changing what they do, but the idea is the same. It was jumping notes, and rhythmically, and we'll hear that when we look at it later, it has this rhythm to it that keeps repeating. Or Lachlan's idea of play a whole 4-bar phrase and then do it again, but just change the ending so it finishes a different way. So I guess the short answer to Oliver's question is, how do you develop your musical, your melodic phrases into a composition? Firstly, write them out again, or copy them, and then go, now what could I change next time? And you can change the rhythm, you could change where the notes go harmonically, but to make it a development of the idea, it needs to be recognisable. That's that same idea again. If you change it too much, it's not a development anymore, it's a new idea. And we want our compositions to have some repetition in them because that's what makes them feel cohesive and like a song.
Absolutely. We actually have an audio recording. Just that's a good point to note that when you do submit your composition, it doesn't have to be notated. It can come in on an audio format, which we've already got one of these. We're going to listen to Emily's song that she has submitted. Now, this is quite amazing because Emily's in Year 2.
In Year 2?
Yes.
That's great.
At Karul Public School, who I think are watching right now. So, Emily, this is your piece. We're going to have a listen to this one.
Hey, I've had enough, and you're not that tough. You're not gonna bring me down to the ground. Next time you bully me, believe me, I'm not gonna frown. I'm just gonna turn around.
That's great, Emily. And look, she's using that same compositional idea. Create a phrase. And she does it a number of different ways and repeats it, but it's a little bit different each time. And I love the way that she's got this great groove going when she sings that. I'm hearing a song that's kind of like... And she's got... I can hear it being a song like that, maybe with some different harmonies. Ba ba boo boo be ba 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 doo ba. That's a great song right there that Emily has created. And you can hear when you put some harmonies to it, and of course we must remind you, you don't have to put the harmonies to your song, we're just asking for melodies. And in fact, Herbie Hancock's going to put the harmonies to it.
Yeah.
How's that? But Emily, that's really great. And did Emily have another question about
I think if we have, do we have Emily live? We got, Emily was going to ask us a question if she's here. Oh, there she is, I can see her standing up. Hello, Emily, can you hear us? Are you, maybe, is the microphone muted at Karul?
We can't hear Emily yet.
Oh, there we go.
There she is.
Okay, just need to speak loud, Emily.
Hi.
Hello, Emily. What's your question for us, Emily?
Should it be a verse or a chorus?
Ah, that's a...
Okay, look, songs with verses and choruses are, as you have done, usually sung. They have words. Now, you're completely welcome to put words to your song as you have, but of course a lot of people aren't. They're just writing instrumental things. When a song is instrumental and no one's singing it and we don't have words, we usually don't have verses and choruses because each verse would sound the same, wouldn't it? Because it'd be the same notes. When you sing a song, you sing the second verse and the third verse. But I think I get two things from your question. One is, I think that sounds more like the chorus to me. It's got a great thing happening. I think it's the chorus. But I think the fact that you've asked that means maybe you're not finished your song yet. Maybe you think there needs to be more. If that's just the verse or the chorus, why don't you now go ahead and write the other part? And maybe when you sit down to sing the other part, it'll become obvious to you. You'll go, actually, I think that feels more like the verse now or the chorus. But right now, that sounds like a chorus to me.
Thank you, Emily. Emily also asked what she could do from here. Any suggestions on what she might be able to do?
I do
from
have
here?
a suggestion what to do next, Emily. Apart from perhaps write some more, because it sounds like you feel like you've got some more to say. But if you can get with someone who reads music and might be able to write down your song for you. Now, we said it's okay to submit them like you have, just singing them or just playing them on an instrument. The reason I want you to get someone to write it down is that causes us to have to decide a few things. When we sing songs, we tend to sing them a little bit differently each time. We just sing it how we feel it at the time, which is wonderful. But for the purposes of this, where we then need to arrange it for a big band and do all sorts of things, we have to make some decisions and stick to them. If you get someone to write it down for you, they're probably going to ask, sing that again for me, do you want it here or do you want it there? And then you'll decide, and you'll do it the same each time, which for a composition that's going to be arranged and played by a lot of people, we need to do. So I think the next thing for you is to get with someone who could write it down for you and ask you those questions, and you can decide exactly how you want it to be and have that written version.
Thank you, Emily. Yeah, thank you.
And thanks for your song.
Fabulous. So we're going to go to Bulahdelah Central School has submitted a number of questions, James. And we've got a question here from Ryan.
Yes.
Ryan is in Year 7, so welcome, Ryan, if you're listening. Ryan asks, are there any intervals that should be avoided when writing a jazz melody?
Gee, that's an interesting question, Ryan. I'm going to give you two quick answers to that. The first one is no. No, don't limit anything. Use any interval you like. If you hear something, that's what I'd say though. If you hear something, you like the sound of it, that's your song. However, here's the other answer. Think about who's going to play it and what instrument they might play it on. Anyone who plays the trumpet out there, and I could be a little bit biased, knows that if I've got an interval like this, that's fine, or this, or even this. But if you've got a song that's doing something here, and the next note is, and then back there, that's going to be almost impossible to play. So that's one thing I'd think about having really big jumps in your song. Too big an interval might make it difficult to play on a number of instruments. And also, you've got to ask yourself, is that how you'd hear it? You know, and you probably go, well, no, I kind of did that for fun. So I'd say make sure you hear it, you can sing it yourself and go, yeah, I like the sound of that. Then use any interval you want.
That's a big point, isn't it, James? When you're writing a composition, is to try and hear it and imagine singing it if yourself.
Imagine singing it. I'd do more than imagine singing it. Anyone who's writing out there and they're using a piano or an instrument to write with, and they might be writing into a program on a computer, make sure every now and then you sing the song and see if you can sing it. A song that can't be sung is unlikely to be a great song.
Like all the great American songbook songs were written as vocals, weren't they?
They're all fantastic to sing. Most of the great songs through history have all been wonderful to sing.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Ryan, for your question. We're actually going to move now to one of the pieces that's been submitted to us. We have Lucas, who is in Year 5 at Ryde Public School. Welcome, Lucas, if you're listening. Lucas has submitted a piece already, and it's called The Old Luke Blues. And we're going to bring it up on, I think you should be able to see it here on the screen.
Yep.
Lucas has had it notated, which is fabulous.
This is fantastic, Lucas. Now, one of the things I'd say right away, anyone looking at this music, you might go, wow, that looks pretty complicated. It's actually, whilst it's a fabulous melody and it is a blues, it only looks complicated because of one little thing, and that is that each time we see this kind of thing, and here it is again, and it appears in different ways. That triplet thing, that's just a way that music notation programs try and interpret something that jazz musicians interpret all on their own. Have a look down the bottom of the page. Everyone's seen 2 quavers like that, and sometimes you get 4 and sometimes you get 3, it doesn't matter. They're played in a certain way by jazz musicians. We do what we call swinging them. Now, when you put it into a computer, it says, well, I don't know what swing is, so I'm going to write it out how it sounds. And if you look back up at the music, I'll just circle another one. That right there, this one, is a triplet. And if we just put 3 triplets like this, that equals 1 beat. But this also equals 1 beat. And when we want to hear swing, what we actually play is the first 2 triplets tied together, which can be written like this. And that's how the computer's written it in Lucas's piece. So this, I'll do it down the bottom here now, this actually equals this, tied together, which jazz musicians would read as just that. And I know that's not what it is, but what we do is we interpret these 2 quavers as sounding like that, and the computer will write it like that. It makes it quite hard to read, that's all. So what you can do is anytime the computer writes something like that, you can just change it to be like that, and it'll be much easier to read. And if it's a jazz piece, every jazz musician will actually play it like the computer has written here. That will make it look much more simple. But now let's get to the fun stuff. What about the song? It's like a 12-bar blues, but it's 16 bars long. I think this is actually the start of the piece here, and this is a pickup. And then Lucas goes through, and of course it finishes down here, and it would repeat from there. He's just got a few empty bars at the end. We don't need them. And that pickup might happen again in here. And when we get a blues that's longer than 12 bars, because the blues is a 12-bar chord progression, we need to add some more chords at the end. It looks like this blues is in C, so I'm going to put some chords on it. It would start with a C7 and an F7. I won't put them all in for you now, but what I will show you, and Lucas might really want to see this, is around here, I'd put in an A7 and then a B flat. Now I'm going to play these for you so you can hear what's happening. And then we do the old D, G, and back to C at the end. Let's have a listen to how that sounds when we play Lucas's blues.
Doesn't that capture
that's a great
so
little
much
blues,
jazz?
yeah.
Yeah.
And you can hear what Lucas has done there, that same thing we talked about, repeating a phrase. First time, and then he does it down a fourth. But he uses that bop, bop, bop thing again so that we feel
Same
like...
rhythmic idea.
Same rhythmic idea. We're hearing a song here,
Yeah.
not just a collection of notes.
Yeah.
But that's so well done, Lucas. That's a fantastic blues. And I like the adding the 4 bars on the end and
Yeah,
getting
that's
that other
great,
interest
isn't
in
it?
there. That's fantastic.
Well, he does ask, is there a way that he could improve on this, James? Any got thoughts on things he might be able to do with that? I mean, it sounds quite complete as it is,
sounds
really,
quite
doesn't
complete. Well, if we just look at the quickly look at the chart again, one little thing, and this requires having a little bit of knowledge of a harmony that goes on. But in a blues, Lucas, if we look at here, have a look at the note I've just circled. That's an E. When we play the blues, by then, on bar 5, let's go 1, 2, 3, 4, that's bar 5, we would be playing a blues in C, we'd be playing a big F7 chord. And an E doesn't fit in an F7 chord. We need it to be an E flat. So what I do is go through, you've used some great E flats like here, you've used it, and all I do is go through and and you've got an E flat down here, all in the right place, your B flats are all in the right place. That E would be much better if it was just an E flat, would make the song work better. I sort of skipped over that a little bit with my fingers to make it work, but if you made that an E flat. So I guess the short answer to that is how to make it better is maybe get someone again with you to play the chords to a blues with your melody slowly and listen to it and go, ooh, that note there just doesn't quite sound right. If I play an F7, which is a great sound, and I play an E natural on it, Doesn't quite fit, but the E flat fits really well. So a little bit of detail, we call that harmonic detail in your song. It's a great song. It works just like it is. Bit of harmonic detail, and maybe that thing I said about just changing how the computer writes it out so it's easier to read, and that'd be fantastic.
And I noticed Lucas has used the blues scale predominantly to build that song.
He has.
Is there, do you want to discuss the blues scale a little bit on as far as writing a melody from using a scale to build a melody from?
A blues scale is a very jazz sounding, as you can tell by its name, a very jazz scale. And a blues scale in C, in the key of C, would simply be C, E flat, F, F sharp or G flat, then your G, your B flat and your C. And I bet you've all heard that sound before. Have a listen. It's a very bluesy sound. So he's based his melody on the blues scale. He might not have even known that. He's just using keys. I don't know. But it's very bluesy. And those things, the real thing about the blues scale is the seventh note is flat. And the third is flat. The third and seventh being flat really make it sound bluesy. Yeah.
Great scale to use as a starting place to write a tune.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
Great chart, Lucas. Well done. We have a question that's come in also from Bulahdelah Central School. And this is from Tiris. And Tiris is in Year 6. And Tiris asks us, what range of notes should you use in the melody? And limit it just over an octave, or how much wider should we do to make it more successful?
Well, I think we probably touched on that a little minute ago, and we said, I think not too wide, the range. I think just over an octave, what you suggested, is perfect. You don't have to make it that wide, but once you get a bit over an octave, you've still got a range of a song that can be sung by just about anyone, can be played on any instrument. If we make the range too big, it starts to get harder to play on a number of instruments, and it could become impossible to sing for almost anyone with an ordinary voice. We get too big a range. So
and to play
on an instrument. So I think just over an octave is a good range. If you're writing your song and you go, oh, I really need this note because it sounds so good, and it's a bit further, go for it. You know, there are songs that break every rule. But if you're asking here for some advice, I'd say have a look at your melody. If you can keep it to just a bit over an octave, that'll be great. Maybe even up to an octave and a half. But a 2-octave song, there's a lot of instruments that's going to get hard to play on.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to go to another composition, James, that's been sent in to us. This is the composition sent in by Ella, which is a great jazz name, by the way. And this is Year 6 from Goulburn East Public School. Ella's piece is called My Composition, which is possibly to be titled.
I like the title. So we talked earlier about this idea that Ella's done and repeated this rhythmic phrase. Ella's done something quite sophisticated with the rhythm. There's a lot of notes here that are off the beat. Have a look at this. If I put a little line where the beat is, that's beat 1, and then beat 2 falls there, but beat 3 falls between those notes, and beat 4 falls between those. And she does a lot of things between, where the beats are falling between, the notes are falling between the beats. And that's a very jazz thing to do. I wonder if anyone out there knows the name for when we put notes off the beat a lot like that. It's called syncopation. And Ella has used a lot of syncopation. Having a look at Ella's song, I'm just going to, maybe we'll go back to the chart for a moment. I had a look at it and I thought the key signature there has got the notes that would be blues scale notes in the key of C. And her piece starts on C, and I'm thinking, did she mean this to be in C? And I think she might have. But whether she did or not, I'm going to try and play it in C for you and see what she thinks. We'll see what we will see of her piece in C. And I'm going to play it like a minor blues. We're going to use a C minor there, and I'm going to do a little walking bass line that goes down. Now, you've heard this before. I think that's going to work really well underneath Ella's composition, because what she's written, and I'm going to count myself in so you can hear where the beats are. 1, 2, 3, 4. And so if we put that bass line underneath that, that sounds like a jazz piece to me already.
It's like a great swing feel, isn't it?
And that syncopation she's used makes it really interesting. Notice how she kept playing the same phrase over, and then on the third time it finishes with that long note. Now, looking back at the chart, my advice for Ella is this whole first section to there sounds like the start to a great song. I was interested, what's it going to do next? Then she has this really syncopated bit in here. Look at those notes. All off the beat, and some falling on the beat, but in odd places, like on beat 2 of the bar. This is really interesting, and I think it could really work. What I expected the song to do then was perhaps go back to somewhere around here, where she takes her idea of those notes jumping higher and higher, but straightens the time out. That's a nice idea. And then back, look, there's the original idea again, right there. My question is, for Ella, what was going on here? Suddenly she's jumped up a couple of octaves, and that's going to be really hard to sing and play on a lot of instruments, especially an instrument that can go this low, have a look at that note, and can go that high. That's a big ask. And also the idea suddenly jumps to this totally other thing, which doesn't seem as related to this. What I think is, Ella's got lots of ideas. I can tell by what she's done with the song she's got. She has lots of ideas, which is fantastic. Sometimes what we've got to do as composers is say, I'm putting too many of my ideas into this song. And I think the song's getting a little bit disjointed because Ella's got another idea. Go back to the chart again. She's got another idea here, which could be a whole nother song. She could develop that, and it gets repeated down here. She could put that into a whole nother song. I think this idea, with this as kind of the middle bit, and then back to it here, would be a great song. And look, she's even put on a fantastic ending. I want to play that for you, where she goes back to her first idea, but she stretches it out. So we've had that, and at the end she goes, so she slows it down. So that's great, what I'd say, great compositional thinking. Taken an idea at the beginning, put it again at the end, slowed it down. It's beautiful. She's almost started to arrange this piece, not just compose it. But I think, Ella, you've got so many ideas. My advice would be maybe don't use too many in the one song. And I think that one idea in the middle there takes us off on a tangent. And if we just take that out, you've got a great composition coming together. It's
a great feel, isn't it?
Oh,
all that syncopation.
It is.
Very jazz.
Yeah, it's very jazz. Very, very jazz, Ella.
Great. Thank you, Ella, for your submission. Fabulous. We have another question, James, from Jamie, who is at Bulahdelah Central School. He is in Year 8, and he has asked us, what is the best way to start a jazz composition? Is it with a chord progression, or do we create a melody over it, or construct a melody first and fit the chords to it? What do you think?
Good question. Well, firstly, in this case, for the composition competition for International Jazz Day, we only need melodies from you. And I know that's not what Jamie's asked, but just to make sure no one gets confused here about writing chords, we don't need you to write chord progressions. If you want to, you can. But we're just looking for melodies. So in this case, you'd start with the melody because that's all you're going to do. However, for those of you out there composing, I know you don't want to just be limited to this competition. So what we just did with Ella's song, here's the chord progression. Now, if you heard that, you could make up a melody over it. That would work. Or you could get, which is the melody, and go, what chords will I put with it? Which is what I did to Ella's composition. My answer is, which one's best to start with first, or which should you start with? Whichever one you get an idea for first. If you hear this great melodic phrase in your mind, write it down, or sing it, record it, and then work out some chords later. But sometimes you get this idea for chords first. You go, oh, I like the sound of that. I'm going to write a melody to that. So however you get inspired, Jamie, yeah, there's no better way. I've written songs either way, depending on what idea I get first. I'll tell you what I will give everyone a bit of advice for, though. When you get an idea, whatever it is, a song, a melody, a chords, anything, some words, write them down or record them. But capture them somehow, because I found so many times the next day I go, oh, that song, what is it again?
Yeah, where does it
start?
start?
I can't remember it.
What was that
Yeah,
great line I created?
Yeah, when you get good ideas, capture them somehow, even if you just quickly sing it into something so you can write it down later, because it might be the start of a great song.
It's a great thing having a phone where we can do recording on it now. We can
Sure.
straight into the phone, record it, keep it forever.
Yep.
Won't forget it.
Any ideas you get, yeah, just capture them.
Yeah. James, we've got another composition that's been submitted by Lachlan.
Yes.
Lachlan is at Denison College. G'day, Lachlan. Denison College is in Kelso near Bathurst. Great to have you. We've got Lachlan's piece, which has got a fabulous title too, I must say.
I like Lachlan's title. Yes, he's. Let's have a look at the chart. So, let's be smart for once. I'd like to do that. Looking at Lachlan's piece, I can see a couple of things right away. It's beautifully constructed, and I can see Lachlan's probably done a lot of writing already.
We should say that Lachlan's in Year 12.
He's in Year 12, yeah. And but it shows in his piece. Look in the middle here. He's got a tempo change, and he's got a key change. Now, of course, when I look at that key signature, all of you out there that know about key signatures, when I see one sharp, it could mean a couple of different things. It could mean G major. It could mean E minor. And I don't know which one he meant, of course, because he just put the melody here. So I've had a look at it both ways. And what I did was look at the bar before and see, what's that leading me into? And I can make it work either way. So well done, Lachlan. You've left it cryptic for me for the chords. But looking at this melody, again, as I said, Lachlan does a beautiful melodic phrase here, and then he repeats it again through to here. Then we get a different thing, and then right back here, look at that. He goes back to the original idea again to finish off the song. And so this first section of the song is really beautifully constructed, and it's got a start, it does it again, a little middle, and then has a proper ending on it. And then he goes into this new section. The reason I'm looking at this bar as not being part of that, I said the song is here, is because it really sounds like an intro into this second part when I play the song. It kind of finishes there, right here. Now, when we go into the new song, new part, we do all this, and then we never go back to the first part. So this is one of those songs that has kind of two parts, and once it changes, it stays in this next section. That's fine. That really works. Let's try putting some harmonies to this. And I know some of you out there know all about chords and some of you don't. Don't worry if you don't, but for those that do, I'd like to write them on the chart because I'd like you to see what we're putting in. So I'm going to put down a C chord of some description there. I'm just trying to make my pen work. No, it's not working. I need some help with that. Let's see. Oh, now it's working. Right. C chord there, then an A7 here, then a D7 there, then a G7. And I'm going to just keep going, writing chords on here. If you look, for those of you who don't know what these are, you might want to ask your teacher and say, what was all that stuff he was writing? These are just symbols that tell me what harmonies I'm going to put with it. For those of you that read chord charts, you'll be noticing all sorts of things about this already. There's some repetition there. That's because the melody is repeating. And when I play it, you'll hear, I don't really need it to do any more than this. And then we go into the middle bit. Now we've got a new chord we haven't had yet, G minor 7 for a whole bar, then C7. Then I'm going to go F major 7, that symbol means, and then, a nice big B flat 13 there. And then we're back to the original melody. Now here's an interesting thing. Instead of you expect, look at this bar, and you go, well, there's that melody, there's those chords, so he's going to write an A7 right about next, but I'm actually going to change it. It's great when you come back to a melody to say, let's put some different chords to it than we had last time. And again, it's that, do something the same, but make something different about it, so that it keeps your interest as the song goes along, but without throwing everything out. We've kept the same melody. All right, I'm just going to go that much for now and play that for you and let you hear what those chords sound like. Just a couple of bars. Here's Lachlan's melody. Now listen to what happens when we put the harmonies with that, and I'll keep going. Now, it depends here whether we're going to go into G or E minor. And I just want everyone to hear the difference. The second part of his song, if it goes into G minor, into G major, sounds like this. And he goes into G major. So it's very happy. But what if it goes into E minor? Listen to the difference. We'd use chords like this to lead us in. And so I've got this sort of sound. It's quite jazzy.
Yeah.
And it's moody as opposed to... And you can do either. And that's a really good example for everyone in Lachlan's song here. He's written a melody. You could make it sound totally different depending on what harmonies you put underneath it. Change the setting. Both of them work. And I'll be happy, Lachlan, to send you through the rest of the chords I had in both keys. You can have a look at them and see what you think. I bet you've got some great chords yourself too. I'd love to see those. But that's a really, really beautifully constructed composition from Lachlan, and lots of scope there to make an epic piece. Notice something else, everyone, today. Some of them were really short ideas that were really interesting and worked, and Lachlan's written this long piece with 2 sections, and it really works too. So when you're going to compose, don't worry if it feels long, write it all down, but if you've got some little idea that you can just do a few times and develop into a melody, some of the greatest songs have been done that way too.
Absolutely. We've only got a few more minutes, but if we can, I'd love to get a live question, James, from, if we can get a link to Narrabri High School. Matt, I believe, has a question. If we can unmute your microphone there, Matt at Narrabri. Have we got... Oh, there we are. Hello, Matt.
G'day, Matt.
Good. What's your question?
My question is, so I can think of a good melody for any piece, and I want to add some chords to it. I don't want to make it like simple chords, I want to make it like complex, like you've done with the last piece.
Yes.
How can I do that?
Okay. That's a big question, but you know what? The simple answer is go and get a bunch of songs that have already been written. There's plenty available where you can see the chords. Have a look at the types of chord progressions. We talk about chord progressions, meaning one chord leads to the other. I can just randomly play chords, you know, and go, and this one, they're all nice chords, but they don't follow on from each other. Have a look at chord progressions and get to know how they go. There's lots of variations, of course, or every song would sound the same, but you will find there's certain things. One of them is, are you familiar with what the cycle of fourths is? Yeah, going up and up a fourth. Look for that and find where you want to end up and work backwards. So say you said, I want to end up in C at this part of the song. And this is a C major 7. And at the moment, I'm in F. How would you get there? Now, if you go around the cycle, it'll take you a long time. So you go, well, I've got 2 bars. I can have 4 chords maybe in there. You know, a chord every 2 beats I was doing on Lachlan's song. I'll just work backwards and go, if I'm going to end up in C, go back for 4 chords worth around the cycle, and it's down to G, down to E, D, down to A, down to E. The next chord I need is an E. And so I want to get to C in 2 bars, and I'm on an F, then I know my next chord's an E. And try it and see if it fits with my melody. And so I go, I'm on F, and I go E to A7, to D7, to G, and here I am on the C right on time. That's one thing, use the cycle of fourths, and the other one is use what we call tritone substitutions. And some of the younger students listening to them might go, now what's he talking about? This is fun. This is taking something that works and kind of flipping it up the other way. Do you know what a tritone substitution is? There? Yeah, okay, yeah. Okay. Tritone substitutions are great. So say, well, I would have played an E and then an A and then a D and a G, but that's a bit predictable. I'm going to swap some of them for their tritone substitution, and which is an augmented fourth away from the original note. And that starts to make songs really interesting. And of course, then you use whatever movements you need to get where you need to go. But the idea of where is this phrase going to end up? Maybe do it each 4 bars. Where is it going to end up? What chord would be great? And then you work back, how do I get there? and have a look at your melody. It might suggest things. When I was harmonising Lachlan's song, I looked at the melody and went, yeah, that suggests, just by looking at the notes that are in it, suggesting chords. But don't be too straight ahead about it. If you see, well, he's got a G there, so he probably wants a G chord, you know, or you know, a C chord because it's the fifth. Try and make the melody notes interesting notes on the chord. Try and say, well, that melody note could be a ninth, it could be a sixth, it could be a, you know, something else. And on minor chords, it might be an 11th. You know, look for interesting places to make the notes, and try the chords out. And finally, and this is for everyone out there composing, no matter what they're doing, chords or melodies, the end of the thing is, it's not a formula. It's not, well, does that work because it goes around the cycle? It's, how does it sound? Does it sound great? A lot of great songs have been written just sitting at the piano and trying out some chords, and you stumble on something you never would have thought of, and you go, wow, that sounds great. I'm writing that down. But always test out your ideas and say, does that really feel good to me? And if it doesn't, try something else. A lot of experimentation with composing, but use some of those ideas you've given you to lead you into finding more complex chords. Certainly the cycle of fourths, tritone substitutions, and working backwards from where you want to end up, a chord that you know you want to end up on, will work really well for you.
James, we've covered a lot today, haven't we?
Haven't we?
We started with a very simple melody,
Yep.
with a vocal melody with nothing, no notation,
Yep.
to getting to tritone substitutions.
To get to tritone, we've covered a lot.
We've covered
we wanted to do that.
Yeah. So for the upper high school stuff, we've just, you know, that's
Yes.
a really good
Great.
reference to come back to do that one. Now, before we finish up, we do have to finish up, unfortunately. I'd like to thank everybody for sticking around, and I hope you've, teachers and students, hope you've got a lot out of today. Of course, this will be on YouTube. Just keep an eye, just look at the links that we've got coming up at the end to reference those. Now, final question for you, James.
Yes.
This comes from Clovelly Public School.
Yes.
It's got nothing to do with composition.
What do they want to know?
They want to know, what's your favourite instrument to play?
Oh, my favourite instrument. This is going to sound like a silly answer, but I promise it's true. Whichever instrument I'm playing at the time. Because if I had a favourite overall, I'd just play that one. Why would you ever not play your favourite? When I sit at the piano, I go, oh, this is so good. And when I pick up a trumpet, I go, oh, this is the best. And when I play a trombone, I go, why would you play anything but the trombone? So whichever one I pick up, I think that's why I'm a multi-instrumentalist.
Yeah, very good. Well, we'd like to, of course, thank James so much for all
Thanks,
his
mate.
amazing knowledge and contribution to Australian jazz. And so, ladies and gentlemen, get out there, get composing.
Yes.
We've got December the 7th is our date to have it submitted by. We would love to have some more compositions come in. Get stuck into it. Ask your teachers, ask your friends. We'd love to see more.
Have a go. Don't worry about whether you think it's any good or not. If you've created something, send it in. Who knows? It might be the one.
Thanks, James, and thank you, everybody. Some final links will be appearing at the end of the presentation for you to go to, and thanks very much. Get composing.